حنبتدي فيها ريسك فيتشرز
19.
طيب يعني first of all I think before we start, then I want to show you the outline of the course, which I will send it to you by email, and perhaps يعني perhaps we might even we review it together now and see if we can change something.
دكتور الدكتور
نعم
ما وصل شيء الحين دكتور.
مش سامعك يا أخي.
ما وصل شيء
ما انا ما بعرفش، يمكن ابعته يمكن ابعته لا لسه ما بعرفش.
احسن ما احنا يلا نبتدي.
ويمكن
كلمة هو مسألة هذه المحاضرة نكتب موضوع هذا هو معنا في السنترال بانك لازم نروح ايه بس خلينا هم يكتبوا لنا ورقة من الكلية حيحتوونا صح يعني يقدموا لنا ورقة من الكلية ان اف كذا ممكن يسوي انتم
ظهر ان ايه مش هتنفع كده. طيب
أنا بقولش خلاص أنا أنت بس مالك أبوك كبرتني بس أنت طيب بالمقشر أنا ما خفت من نفسي خفت من جد بالعكس ما تخافون كم 5 ساعات أنا ترى أشتغل مرة ما تخافون بالعكس أشتغل مرة 5 ساعات سميرة من صدق كفاية المفروض اللي عندني بعتبر سوين ده بالضبط قمت في الدكتور نقول لهم جوينتلي لأن احنا حنستفيد من مادة واحدة والمرة نستخدم بعدين أسئلة نسأل شوفوا واجد حلو والله حلو بس قلت لك الحين شو
طيب
عشان كنت
بسم الله. First of all, let's see what we're doing exactly, what we want to do. Because you see, you know, I have taught a couple of courses last semester. And يعني at least I was not very comfortable with one of them because these were the courses which does not have any textbooks. So in such courses you can easily go astray. This is the disadvantage, the bad news. But the good news is that you can custom make your course in such a way that would يعني meet certain objectives, the objectives that you want. So we want to think together first, what do we want to do? Okay? Of course we should have done that from the very beginning. But يعني it's better to be late than never, better late than never. Huh? Or يعني زي ما بيقولوا ايه mieux en retard que jamais. The course provides the students the necessary knowledge to understand why and how to regulate finance and some of the skills related to monitoring and supervising Islamic finance. So my own perception that I perceive you to possibly working either in an Islamic bank or Islamic financial institution that's being regulated so that you can contact the central bank and prepare the information and answer the questions and fill out the forms for the central bank and advise your management on how this institution should be, how it complies with the central banking regulations and supervision, or you're working in the central bank itself in the Department of Regulation and Supervision, or sometimes they have two different departments. And when you have many banks, regulation would be, because supervisory things, as we said before, it is supervision is just the field work, that you go there and meet the people and collect information and so on. So we have seen the inside job. Of course, I have not given you back what the paper you have written, because I am waiting to learn somebody from the IT to teach me this program, which is called Turnet. It's called Turnet. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So that because we want to protect against plagiarism and so on. So I think maybe I have an appointment tomorrow. The rest of the week, the following 2 days, I won't have classes. So so I will learn that and then start returning your. But we have seen a documentary, and this documentary actually raised a lot of issues related to legal, regulatory, and supervisory issues, and it raised them at the proper time, the time when there was a financial crisis and in a country where there were so many failures, especially in the big ones, in the big institutions. So you have had first experience to see, at least to see one of justifications and many of the issues related to regulation and supervision. So this is the introduction. Of course it's an easy introduction because the teacher doesn't do any lecturing or anything like that. You go home and relax and write something. But you're graduate students and you're supposed to do that. Now the other thing here that we want to look at ideology and financial regulation, because you see, as we have learned from our lecture so far, that to regulate, you can have many degrees of regulations. There is not one degree. There is no one. It's just like drinking water. You can drink. You can take one sip. You can drink half a glass, 1 glass, 2 glasses, 3 glasses, whatever. So regulation is the same, but the amount of regulation that you wanted depends on your beliefs, your ideology, whether you believe in liberalism and the invisible hand, or you believe in strict controls. So and then you see, why would we bother about this? Because of the fact there are some regulators who are very harsh. Once you overstep your limits, they will come back to you very strongly. Okay? And some regulators who are more patient, they have what's called forbearance. They will not warn you once, twice, and 3 times, and then when it is too late, maybe they will come and try to punish the institution. Of course, you remember the famous story about someone who got married, and then he was complaining that his wife really does not listen to him and does not obey him. So a friend advised him to get a cat in the house, and then the cat, once they sit for dinner at night, the cat will come and of course she will smell the food, and then to also buy a gun, a pistol, and when the cat comes on, you tell her to go once and then twice, and then third time you pull out the gun and shoot the cat, and you tell your wife, first time is okay, second time I'm angry, but the third time I shoot. So when he got his gun out in the third time, his wife took the gun from his hand and said, that should have been done from the very beginning. You're too late now. So forbearance carries the possibility of being too late. Did you did you understand the joke?
Yes.
Yeah, because nobody left. Okay, of course it loses something in the translation. Okay? And maybe, I don't know if ladies appreciated that, but they don't appreciate that. I suppose many ladies don't like cats to start with, and they will not let any cat in the room. Somehow there is some kind of, not with all of them, but some women, they have some kind of an allergy to cats. And of course the difference between a cat and the dog usually when he finds people feeding him, he would say, people feed me, they must be very nice. So the dog becomes very grateful. But the cat, when we feed her, she would say, people are feeding me, I must be grateful. And she gets more, she feels more conceited. Okay? So, anyway, so regulatory forbearance is actually is a reflection that the market has a mechanism, has some kind of reactions that would make the interference in the work of institutions mostly unnecessary, not totally unnecessary, but mostly unnecessary. So this is what, but on the other hand, forbearance could endanger the process of control, and we might be interfering too late. Okay? So we spoke about this, and I think, I hope now that the point is clear, at least in summing up. And then we want to look at the approaches to regulation. We looked at the functional approach and the centralized approach. Whether you regulate by functions or you regulate in a centralized fashion, and we try to understand the advantages and disadvantages of each one of them. Then we come to, first of all, I'm sorry I didn't ask you, do you agree with the objective of the course? Do you think that the objective of the course is okay with you? Or do you have another objective in your mind?
I have a comment, Dr.
Yes.
That not all of us are working in banks or in central banks. So for us to think or even have worked at all in banks, so to think of a banker in terms of setting regulations or even knowing how to write the regulations, it's a bit far from the practical. I mean, for example, here I'm not sure how many are working in banks, but most of us are not in banks. So,
well, you see, this is a good question. That what is it for me? I am not working in a bank. Maybe I will not work in a bank. I am not working in a central bank, and maybe I will not work for a central bank. So what do I get out of that?
No, I mean, how do I think as a bank? I have
Oh, how
worked.
do you think?
So how?
Yeah, well, okay. Now, are you studying for masters in Islamic finance? You
Yeah,
are.
most probably.
Yes, okay. Is anybody in another field that you're studying for Islamic finance?
Yes,
also?
Master Salman.
Yes?
And I have a comment in this regard.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay, but I'll get you, come to the comment one by one, okay? One by one. امسك السرعة. So,
هو سعيد.
امسك السرعة يعني في مصر يقف في الطابور.
حتى السعودية يقول كم سنة؟
ها؟
حتى السعودية.
مفيش في مصر. لا ما مصر ما عندناش سرعة، احنا عندنا طوابير. يعني زي العساكر، زي الطابور طبعا ده بتاع الجيش طبعا.
عجبتك قوي ها؟
طيب you just you see either that you might get lucky after graduation and you get a job, or you might just be like somebody like me. I've studied accounting, business administration, mathematics, and what else? Many things. And of course, I studied biology. I even read a lot of medicine. I studied, I read a lot in books in Sharia, but of course I don't use all of them because at the time when I read books in Sharia, I was much too young, and I didn't really know that I'd be working in Islamic finance. So I became really, my reading was not limited to Islamic, to financial contracts or investment contracts. I read everything. Things which I needed and things which I didn't need. So what we'll say that we hopefully we will give you a wider perspective of the world, of life, that you will be more understanding and more aware. This is part of the general education. But if you get lucky and work in your own field,
I just hope that the expectation is not as much high.
Yes, it will be as much. It will be as much. There is no difference because we want you to take. We want you to, because you are in Islamic finance program. We would like you to be able to think like an Islamic finance specialist. So, an Islamic finance specialist either works in a bank or a financial institution or in a central bank. And from the perspective of this course, we want to know how are you going to handle from your own position, your own practical life position, how are you going to handle the function of, or how do you're going to perceive the legal side, the regulatory side, and the supervisory side, okay? Whether you're going to do it or not. It's just like when you study medicine and you learn a lot of things about things which in practice you probably might specialize in eye diseases or ophthalmology, and you never use the information you have about kidneys or about liver or whatever.
The kidney has its function, it has its shape. I mean, these are fixed things, but here it's more about innovating and trying to think different and...
It's more interesting, isn't it? Yes, اتفضل يا أخي.
Well, first of all, I'd ask a big question. Because as I mean, Islamic finance regulation or not? This is the broad question. The second,
does Islamic finance need regulation?
I mean, generally speaking, does the finance sector need regulation or not? This is a major question, and there is a debate. One of the argument being held by the documentary you submitted to us.
Yes.
This is the first question. This is the question: who are the stakeholders who benefit or may affected by this kind of regulation or deregulation?
Okay.
Well, let's say the financial sector, the people who work in the financial sector, the financial sector itself, institute, the people who are the customers, either in the retail section or like corporate section? You know, it's a broader question.
Yes.
That's this. I think this made your question will lead us to.
Now, yeah, this is fine. Yani actually, these are 2 points or 2 questions are very, very good questions, and they are related to what we. They are related to the not only ideology but rationale, and this is part of the course, of course. But I just want first to get your agreement on the course objectives. Is that what you look for? So actually we agree now that you would look for something that prepares you to be able to act as a financial expert, either in an institution or a central bank, or to have a broader view beyond your own area of working if you do not work in that area. Okay? But does any of you have, suppose for example, one of you is a heart surgeon. So what would you like me how would you like, can we orient the course to the needs of a heart surgeon? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. Maybe we will get into financing his hospital for heart surgery, maybe management of the hospital, maybe this, maybe that. So we can add these interests to the course. There's no objection to that. Okay? So we agree. I can see that nobody is objecting. Now we come to we spoke about. I don't think this works here. Oh, it does work. I didn't expect that. We are going down. So.
بس عديناها لسه عديناها
So now we spoke about regulation, and of course the point of Brother Hajri. That's right? Did I get your name right? Yeah, the point of Brother Hajri, of course, may appear to be related to ideology. Do we need regulation or not? But it is not. It is not. Why? Because of the fact that actually ideology, there is no ideology that says we should not have regulation.
The amount of regulation, the amount of regulation there are.
The amount of regulation. We are talking about the amount of regulation. So, do we need regulation for financial institutions? This relates to the rationale. Whether regulation serves a purpose or not. So when we come to approaches to regulation, we said that we want to look into functional and centralized approaches, and also we want to to compare these approaches in terms of suitability, effectiveness, and relevance to Islamic finance. Because our interest here is not regulating banks or finance in general, but we are interested in regulating Islamic finance. Then we come to the global regulatory framework. Now, of course, you remember from the slides we reviewed together on that everybody, until the 80s, every country was regulating its own financial institutions the way it was. Nobody really bothered with with the global perception, of regulation, global standards. But because of the increase in the degree of interdependence between economies and countries, we had to make sure that if say a Qatari bank does some transactions that involve other banks in the other parts of the world, that those banks are properly operating. They're operating properly. So when it came to international operations, and because of many banks do international operations, we had to develop for the whole world some global standards. Of course, these global standards are not meant for the small neighborhood bank. Suppose, let's take a country like Egypt or Sudan. There is a small bank in a village, in a little village, which will never finance exports or imports. Okay, will never deal with foreign exchange. Will never handle in international operations. We're not talking about that. We're talking about when a bank steps out of the country and does international transactions, then we must apply some rules. And we found that there is some kind of a institutional framework. The BIS, Bank of International Settlements, مصرف التسويات الدولية, and the Basel Committee or لجنة بازل, and so these are the regulation makers, the institution that make regulations for the whole world. And we find also that, or we found that the intellectual part of regulation, those who think for us, and sometimes, as you've seen in the movie, those who also influence our ideology towards regulation, how much regulation we need, is the group of 30. The group of 30 is something like the think tank for international regulatory standards. Okay? So this part is very important because we are not, Islamic banking and finance is not working in a vacuum, it's not working in a small village, it's working in the many of Islamic banks nowadays are doing international transactions. Not only that, but even some international banks which are not Islamic are doing Islamic financial transactions. So they need to be regulated as such. So if you have any comments on this, do you agree that we should be studying that, although it's too late now, we have already studied that particular one. Okay? Okay, so we come to the Islamic financial law and where to begin and how. Okay, let me see, because this is not, it doesn't move very fine, it moves, jumps, so I'll have to sit down and wait there. But let's see. So we want to understand, first of all, what is regulation and its rationale. The same point that Brother Hajri was talking about. So we want to distinguish between the legal aspects, the regulatory aspects, and the supervisory aspects.
عشان بعد ما يعرفوا يستانسوا
So now I wanted, I thought in order to understand regulation in an easy but very sophisticated way, we'll try to look at it like some economists do, which is that we observe or perceive regulation and supervision as a set of incentive contracts between regulators and regulated. So it is not really something like an imposition. You really would like, as a regulator, you would like to see the regulated institutions to behave in a certain fashion in order to facilitate your regulations. Either that you fight with the institutions that you regulate and force them into some behavioral pattern, or you give them an incentive. This is what we want. This is how we want to perceive regulation as an incentive, a set of incentive contract between regulators and the regulator. And then we want to look at the cost and benefits of regulation. Usually this is the way economists rationalize everything. Cost and benefits. To the extent that you may have, if you have studied financial analysis or financial, finance, corporate finance in general, and you may have heard of it from your finance professor, cost and benefit analysis. Okay, and sometimes it has another name which is called feasibility study. Okay, so this is the same thing that we will do with regulation. How much it costs and how much it benefits. And of course, in the world and in the mentality of an economist, nothing can be done for free. Everything costs, and everything has either advantages or disadvantages. So, if you're paying for something, if something is costly, but it brings you disadvantages, so you actually, this is what is called double jeopardy. That you are smacked twice with cost. The cost of doing things and the results also are negative. So we want to look at this, and we want to see whether regulation makes an economic sense or not. Then we come to Islamic finance, regulation, practice, and inherent risks. So we would like to see what type of risks there exist. Because why are you regulating? You want to help the institution mitigate risks. If there are no risks at all, why should you regulate? Okay? But of course, here I am, in this context, I am considering that if the institution, if there are no risks at all, then it means that also the risk of being cheated or having things misrepresented to you does not exist. Why? Because if there are no, suppose a bank or a financial institution is selling a product to you, okay? And suppose there are no risks in this product. So would there be any room for misrepresentation? In other words, trying to cheat you, trying to cover up so that you can buy the product? It is riskless anyway. It is riskless. So there is no reason for misrepresentation, and there is no reason for regulation in the sense that Al-Hajri has mentioned, which is what? Protecting the interest of some stakeholders. And we're talking about stakeholders, we mean by stake here not this piece of meat that you barbecue and eat. We don't mean either sweepstakes, but we mean stakes, okay? So, so we have here and as I explained to you, we have the two-tier mudaraba, and we have the two windows approach. And so we want to see in which view of Islamic finance regulation fits. Do you want to regulate Islamic finance as a two-tier mudaraba model or as a two-window model? Okay? It's so we will and then we will relate the regulatory approach to the vision or the perception of Islamic finance, and then we look at the risk features of Islamic finance to see the broad features, broad risks, and the idiosyncratic risks. The risks which are related to the particular situation, so they are idiosyncratic, or the risks which are broad that apply, like systemic risks and things like that.
Excuse me, doctor.
Okay? Yes.
Where would the prudential regulation and conduct of business fall here?
Yeah, we're prudential. Can anybody answer this question? Of course, we are not lecturing now. We are.
No, I'm just asking.
But we want to understand. Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah. Anybody wants to tell us whether where prudential risk fits here?
Maybe the broad risk.
Huh?
The broad.
What?
The broad risk, maybe.
The broader risk.
Yeah. Because we are trying to prevent.
It's not about risk.
I see Safina has her hands up.
The rationale.
Huh?
Sorry, rationale for.
Rationale.
Yeah, for regulations. Because we are
In the
trying to
ideology,
prevent.
doctor, it has to be discussed within the ideology of the regulation that may be adopted by any financial system.
I'm sure that since we haven't explained that, your imagination can cross the limits of the sky. Okay? But prudential regulations are related to what? Are related to risks. Okay? Are related to risks. When we talk about risk, every risk, so you want to, because you see, regulation has, wants to protect, as I said, wants to protect the institution from failure. Okay? So we want to identify the risks and see how to protect the institution from it. Okay, for example, if and let me give you an example because we don't want to spend much time on this. After we finish the outline, we will come to agree to it together. Then we will come to the lectures and we explain it. But let's now assume that the Central Bank of Qatar insists in its regulations that every bank has, in Sharia should have, every Islamic bank, financial institution must have the Sharia board. What this particular regulation, what kind of risk does it protect from?
The misrepresentation. And misrepresentation.
From what?
Also misrepresentation of product, that they are Sharia compliant or that.
Okay, misrepresentation. Anybody else has a suggestion here? Of course, you can combine what Brother Hifnawi and Sister Sheikha said here in one word, which is
compliant.
Compliance is more general.
Not the unification of
Sharia also, there is a better word for it.
Okay, doctor, also we may say that it's, I mean, it could be the unification of Islamic banks' practices so that the whole process is being unified or made uniform amongst.
Yes, uniformity is fine, but you see, a Sharia board in each financial institution does not produce necessarily uniformity.
No.
See what I mean? But what we're protecting institutions here is from what we call reputation risk. Reputation risk. Here is an institution that has the Islamic flag, you see what I mean, and provides conventional finance. This is disastrous. This is disastrous. And we must protect Islamic banks from facing such reputation risk, because once you believe, once you lose faith in the Sharia compliance, as some of you said, of the Islamic bank, then you become cynical, and then you find that it doesn't make any difference, and then Islamic banks tend to deteriorate, converge to being conventional banks. And why all the effort to start with? Why we shouldn't have really troubled ourselves to make Islamic banks? Why should have? Why should have we?
Okay, doctor, but provided you have qualified scholars sitting on these boards.
Yeah, fine. I mean, there are other rules, but you see what you're saying, that this rule is not it's necessary, but not sufficient.
Not sufficient, yeah.
Yeah, and we have in economics, I'm sure that you have studied that in your economics course, that there are conditions which are necessary and conditions which are but not sufficient. Of course, a sufficient condition must be necessary. Okay. So we come to the after that we come to the law, Islamic law, Islamic banking and finance law. Now here we must operate under the law. How the law should be constructed. How to customize laws to a single and mixed financial systems. And how to legislate Islamic finance. My apology for typos. Okay, through civil, commercial, and banking laws. Case studies. So here, I know that none of you is a lawyer, and we're not really training ourselves to write the law. But we want to read the law like finance specialists who are interested in the practice of Islamic finance. So first of all, we must operate under the law. I am not going to explain to you why. Let's assume that it is obvious. It does not need explanation. But I am sure in a course of law, in a course in the legal department, they probably would take weeks to explain to you why we should have a law, why we should have law, in general. But we don't want to get into this. This is beyond our own specialization. But how the law should be constructed? Because you see what we're trying to do here, we want to use the law as a tool to regulate and supervise Islamic banks. So the law would take care of an Islamic financial institution from conception, from birth, from the moment it starts working or being established, in other words, from probably licensing to when it reaches maturity and works at full speed. So we want to look at that. And now here we have two possibilities. You either have an Islamic banking system, which is an Islamic banking system, only Islamic. And this
or dual system. And or dual system, a mixed system.
Yeah, okay. Or a mixed system. Okay. So so we want to know what the law looks like in either case. So what we will do is we will get the Islamic bank, the banking law of Sudan, because Sudan has one system. We look at it together and see whether it satisfies the requirements from our point of view, or we should tell the Sudanese to rewrite or adjust it. And then we will take the Islamic banking law, if there is one in Qatar, or the Emirates, or Jordan, or Malaysia, or any other country that we can find, in which we can find the law.
There is no Islamic banking.
Huh?
There is no Islamic banking law.
Yeah, I mean, wherever we can find the law. And then I will give you a special experience. What do you know about special experience? This is the third step here. If your country has no law, no Islamic banking law, but it has a conventional banking law, and it wants to introduce Islamic banking, or more frequently, it wants to, it has already introduced Islamic finance. I mean, there are already some Islamic banks and financial institutions working, but under special decrees or something like that. Like what happened in Dubai, in the Emirates, when there was no Islamic banking law, and Sheikh Said Douda, or not Sheikh, but Hajj Said Douda, because word Sheikh here is different. Hajj Said Douda is got a decree, special decree from Sheikh Sheikh Rashid to establish the Dubai Islamic Bank. So the only legal thing here was the decree of Sheikh Rashid, signed by Sheikh Rashid. So it was, and this was not a federal bank, bank that was sanctioned by the state. It was sanctioned by a local government, the Emirate of Dubai. But of course, gradually it found itself falling under the supervision of the center. Okay? So we will take, and I will give you my own experiment here. We'll look at the Egyptian central bank law and study together the adjustments that I have proposed into that law. And so that we can see whether, what type of adjustments we need.
That's not the banking law, but also I think in Egypt there is no Islamic banking law. What I mean by Islamic, and here we have in our law that we are permitting Islamic banks to do Islamic finance, okay, but we don't have definition for each and every Islamic finance or Islamic transaction. That's what I mean, but we are allowed to do within the normal.
Yes.
And with Dr. disregard that the regulation done to circulate among the Islamic finance institutes.
And we have,
if you've got an access to the central bank website, and there is a circular that's been issued, for instance, for the personal financing, the bank should finance at a certain amount for the certain maturity. Yes. That's it.
Of course, we will discuss when we come to this. Which is better? With central bank, instructions and circulars, be sufficient? What do we have to have? Also, we want to know whether we should put in the law what we put in the law, including should we put the definitions of Islamic finance contracts or not. And you will find that I have had an opinion which may not agree with others, that I have not only that I have put the definitions of Islamic finance contracts in the law, I have put the definitions of the non-Sharia compliant products too. So I have put the definitions of Rina and Tawarruq and debt sale and credit card, conventional credit cards, etc. You see what I mean? So And you at this time, when we come to that, you will have an opportunity to come back at me and say, why is that? Why are you doing that? Or at least we'll try to explain, understand.
It is good that
Okay? So, any question about this particular one? Any question about this particular one? But you will see in the paper that I have, that I've sent you by email, which was published, it was written under, jointly with Dr. Munawar Iqbal from Pakistan, when I was working at the Islamic Bank, and it was published as a booklet about frequently asked questions about Islamic finance. You see, this article was made, we were asked by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, the Sharia circle of the Supreme Court, to our opinion whether Pakistan can apply Islamic finance and prohibit riba totally. Okay? So we wanted to express our own technical opinion as Islamic economists. And I had, of course, the honor to go with the team of the IDB and to attend the hearings of the Supreme Court, and also we gave them that paper. We presented that paper to them, and then later when we found this was a useful paper, why not publish it? So we published it. So it shows how to convert, and it is not so difficult how to convert from one system to a conventional banking to an Islamic banking system. So this is one of the items that you might want to look at. Any questions about this part? Do you agree? Do we agree that we should study this? Okay. You can see that I'm being influenced with the Egyptian democracy. We are voting on everything. Okay, now we come to the proper framework. We talk about the law, and we want to talk about regulation, and then we talk about supervision. So what type of regulatory framework do we need for instance? Do we need what kind of objectives? Should the objectives should they be product standardization? Should be financial soundness? Should we have some operational controls? Should we have also Sharia compliance? And then we want to look at case studies for Islamic finance regulations. Now in this case, of course, I have given you some papers, some references on certain countries. You will find the larger number of them is in Malaysia. But I hope that you not all of that, if you want to write your project on this particular part, that you do not go, all of you go and choose Malaysia. Perhaps, if there is a neighboring country, because you see, we have Islamic finance in Oman, Qatar, Emirates, Saudi Arabia, all the Gulf countries. And we have also Islamic finance in Lebanon and Syria. We have Islamic finance in Egypt and Algeria. Do we have Islamic finance in Mauritania?
No.
Not yet. Okay. This is strange because although Mauritanians, sheikhs are more than, Mauritania can be distinguished by two professions, Sharia scholars and poets. Everybody says poetry there, and everybody is a Sharia scholar.
لسه بدو لسه بدو.
لسه بدو.
First banks they opened in like 2000 to 2004.
طيب ماشي. I have no objection to that. Okay. Now, I will never forget when I went to Mauritania, I was the head of the economic mission from the Arab Monetary Fund to advise the Mauritanian government on make an economic stability program, financial stability program, like what the International Monetary Fund does to other countries. And then they wanted to, they were, Mauritanians are very generous people and very, as Bedouins, they are very generous and very, hospitable. So they took me to their camel
desert, to the desert.
مضارب الإبل camel pastures, okay? I'm trying to find the word. And then this was close to sunset, and then the camels were coming from their pastures, and they were herded that inside together, and then they started milking camels, and but of course we had, after we prayed Maghrib, we sat in tents waiting for that. They brought us the fresh camel milk in a big ceramic pot like that. And of course, as a people like who come from Fayoum, like Kadu, they were originally Bedouins turned into farmers. So we're used to this. So I grabbed the ceramic pottery, and then I just dug my mouth in it, and then I started gobbling milk, the hot, freshly, fresh milk from the camel until I filled my stomach up, and then I gave it to my next neighbor, who was an Algerian fellow, also educated in a nice taste like me, but he was maybe he came from a Bedouin background, but he had no relationship with that. He was horrified. He was horrified. So I gave him a very sharp look and said, "You don't embarrass us. You drink." He drank. So that's the way Mauritania needs more camel milk, not Islamic finance. So here we look at the regulatory questions, and we want to see what objectives we want to fulfill, and the objectives themselves would be influence the regulations we write, and we might be able to get some written regulations to look at least samples of them, samples of these regulations. And as I told you, you want to have a case study. It is but please don't choose the same country. Now we want to look at some issues in Islamic finance supervision, now when you visit an Islamic financial institution, how do you do? What are you interested in? Okay? This is not a social visit. Supervision is not making a social visit. It's your very first vision, your very first visit is to establish mechanisms for monitoring. And in other words, to set up eyes, cameras, just like that. Not, of course, you will not set cameras, but I mean, just like doing that. And then when you come back in your next visit, you see what kind of information that has been collected, so that you discuss them, make sure that they are correct. So, which means actually that you have to have some preparatory work in your office, and you have to have, which is based on the data that you get regularly, and you have to go and raise questions and see why this is so and why that was so. Give you an example of real life supervision. When we had when I was working in the Middle East Islamic Bank, and we issued the first batch of Sukuk. So we had some assets, and we securitized those assets. And this was to the worth of, or to the tune of about $500 million. So it was not a small sum. And all of us, when the central bank people, supervisory team, came to visit the bank, that was at the end of the year, they looked around and they saw that the assets have disappeared. Some assets which existed in the last year's financials, not last year's, last quarter's financial statement, were not there. And they protested. And we tried to explain to them that we securitized those assets so they are no longer owned by the bank. They are owned by Sukuk holders. And they were not convinced. And why? Because, they have had some very good auditors who were well versed in the international accounting system. Okay? But this international accounting system had nothing to do with Sukuk or Islamic finance. So they wanted to apply this to us. And so we took them and went to the Sharia board, to the chairman of the Sharia board, in order to explain to them. But the explanation was not really so acceptable. So we decided to go to hold a meeting in the central bank with their technicians and our technicians, and to brainstorm the whole problem. And finally we convinced them. And on the basis of this discussion, they issued a circular that if you securitize some assets, they must be removed, for Islamic banks of course, they must be removed from your financial statement. So this is how you can imagine that supervision is very, very useful. It is not just collecting information, it is, because you can do that without going there, but it is discussing issues. And you have to decide or determine what issues that you want to discuss. Now we will have, although brother Hifnawi is leaving at the right moment, at the wrong moment. Okay, fine, no problem. But I have arranged with him through his good offices that he will bring some officials of the Qatari Central Bank to explain to us their approach in regulating and supervising Islamic banks. And this is going to be very interesting, because this is going to be how to regulate and supervise Islamic banks without a law. Without a law. And also, we will, I think we will write to him, I'll write to them this week, and probably in 2 weeks or so, you will have a chance to have some practical. First of all, talk to a practitioner and see what he or she thinks, and I hope that they will send us the head of the department for regulating and supervising Islamic banks. That part, is it okay with you? But also the previous part, is it okay with you? No problem? We will study, we will separate between legal, regulatory, and supervisory issues. And then we will come and take a guest presentation. Now, what kind of coursework? How do you earn your grade? First of all, you have an introductory paper that's based on the movie, and this is probably I'm the only teacher in this distinguished faculty that gives his students entertainment to take home, and then based on the documentary of the inside job, then you are assigned to write a second term paper related to one of the topic chosen with the advice of the course and instruction. You will have also a midterm. Now I've changed the policy of the midterm in my last practice. I'll give you 5 questions. Each question is in 1 week, starting with next week, inshallah. You get your computer with you, and I will send you the question on the internet by email. You answer it within maximum of 20 minutes and send it back to me by email before we start our class. We will do that 5 times. I will strike out. Just a minute. I will strike out the worst grade. In other words, I'll give you the average or the total of the best 4 grades. Okay, I'll take Sheikh first because she was too anxious. She couldn't.
No, I didn't because I heard you, doctor, saying before the class.
Huh?
I heard you saying before the class.
You had what?
I heard you saying before the class.
No, not before class. No, I will give
during
you
the class.
During class.
Yeah, that's why I just was confused.
Okay, now.
Yes, doctor, apparently the class is more of an essay writing rather than MCQs.
Right.
This is going to take us a lot of time. It will take us time to think of the answers and try to organize them in an essay question. So I may recommend, if it's okay, if we can just gather all these 5 questions and make one midterm where we can sit and the whole hour or 1.5 hours and write the essay for us to be able to visualize and think about it. 20 minutes.
You see, your name is Amani. Yes. Yeah? You see, Amani, what I want you to, I have been a student.
Doctor, I agree with Amani.
Huh?
Doctor, I agree with Amani.
Okay, you agree whatever you wish. But you see, everybody is free to agree or disagree. But you see, I have been a student before. Believe me, this is a long, a midterm with 5 or 4 questions. It could be essay questions, could be excruciating. This is more like a final, okay? But for a midterm, one small question at a time, within 20 minutes. You have 5 minutes to think and 15 minutes to write 1 or 2 paragraphs, small paragraphs. This is not a big deal. But if you take it all together, it's just too much. I want to release you. Yes, Brother Muhammad, yes, go ahead.
In order to prepare it, are we supposed to read the material that you've given us last time?
Yeah, you want to prepare for example what?
In order to prepare ourselves, are we supposed to read the material that you've given us?
Yeah, I'm giving you all the references and all the slides we have here.
We have to read them all.
Huh?
We have to read them all and go through them.
What?
We have to read them all and go through them.
Yes, you have to read until we have to finish all what we have studied until the exam. Whatever. Just a moment. Yes.
We ask to relax the regulation for 20 minutes, make it like maybe until the break. Yeah, could be like after the exam, like midnight or something. We can take it home and then we can send it instead of wasting the extra time.
Exams are made for PhD, not PhD students, for PhD screening exam. You see, usually, according to the system I have the system I have been, I have taken economics under this American system. I took about, after the master's degree, I took about 3 years of coursework, very tough coursework. And then I took 4 exams. These 4 exams, they are not take home, they are take office. Because I was an instructor, I was teaching. So I had a little office, so I take it, all the books around with me. I have 4 hours to write 4 questions. And I had, of course, you've seen those answer books. They used to be in my own time. At my own time, they used to have blue covers, so we call them blue books. And you fill out 2 or 3 blue books for each question. And then the result usually it's about 40% passing and 60% failure. And this is how these are very miserable. I don't want to put you into misery, and I don't want to give you an exam to to take home. This is not this is not a big deal. Yes.
This will make a big pressure on us, especially that we are working. Now, studying in daily basis for the as studying is different than studying for exams. For exams, it needs too much focusing, and since we are working, we can't just keep all our time just focusing for an exam. That we don't know what to study and when to study and these things.
You see, if you are working and if you don't have time to study.
No, we are studying, but you know that daily study is different than studying for exams.
I'll tell you. See, your name is Dima. You see, Dima, if I ask each one of you to give me 10 excuses for not having an exam, you probably will give me 100. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate the feeling. But this is an exaggerated feelings about an exam coming from graduate students.
It's not an exam, sir. It's not we're not against the exam. We're against having the exam into 5 different weeks. Each week we have a quiz. It's going to be quite stressful.
Yes. Why are you against that?
Because we have other subjects. If I'm going to be studying for a quiz in an essay form with this kind of stuff, it's going to be quite stressful.
You see, the first quiz will be taken from the material you have studied so far. Second quiz will be taken from material studied only for 1 week, and so on. It will be even much easier. So it is not really.
We took in the lecture, not study. For me to study, I have to sit over the weekend to study this. And I have other subjects plus work plus my life, and it's quite stressful to do it on a weekly basis.
I think.
I
think I agree with you regarding the private quizzes. I agree with you because let's start from the end. What we got? We got 20 minutes. Assume that we can time in on the work process in this regard. 20 minutes means that we'll check out answer about roughly from 200 to 250 words. I think so. So the material that relates to 150 words.
You reply to 150 words in 20
No.
minutes?
No, for me, I can do the 300 to 1 hour. 300 1 hour. Say for partly sighted person, let's say 5 words per.
You're talking about your special needs.
No, I mean just speaking. At the end, I think that the answer to the question is concise and we cover a portion of what we started. Instead of, let's say, what that means, study will take about 3-4 hours time, or 5 hours. That's it.
Can we make
you cannot vote. How can you vote? The only way to get you out of this is to write to the dean, asking him to, why shouldn't we cancel exams at all? Completely.
I mean, we are arguing against these regular quizzes, but definitely we would love to sit for a midterm exam, one midterm exam.
But you see, this is which is more effective regulatory-wise from the point of view of regulation? Small quizzes given 5 times. That's one.
Small quizzes.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Just 15 marks.
What?
Just 15 marks. No one should take 5 exams on 15 marks.
Oh, 15 marks, yes.
Well, Doctor, also about, the 20 minutes, if we're going to have these quizzes over 1 hour, session, that would be fine, because definitely it's going to be very difficult to respond to a question 20 minutes.
It's a waste of time to give you 1 hour for a small question that requires only
after the
1 or 2
class
paragraphs.
time, even we can have it after the class time.
Fine.
After 7.
But still 20 minutes. I have no objection.
No class time, then it's better during the class, not after the class.
But that's a good idea that we have it either after class time or maybe the last 20 minutes of the
Sorry,
class.
excuse me, after that, we
So
have
that,
work.
uh,
I suggested after the class. I said that provided we take 1 hour after class. It's not the 20 minutes after the class. Provided that it extends to 1 hour. Doctor,
Amira,
it's very difficult.
it is يعني I think I can hear, especially from our assistants, that there is some kind of a phobia of exams.
No,
But this is not a big deal. This is not a big deal. It's not really a big deal. So if you want to be trained or educated as supervisors and regulators, you should have better you should have better composers than that.
We're not regulators, doctor. We're just studying a subject. It's one of the subjects that we have to take. We're not regulators, we're not bankers.
Yeah, but we have to look at objectives too. Okay, so this is the class. What we will do, the way it is divided. Do I see if I have any? I get in the marker. It looks like maybe not. Anyway, we do have 30 out of 100. We have 30 points for the final. We have let's say we have 10 points for the introductory paper that you have.
Doctor, we said 15. Doctor, we said 15.
Just a moment. I should have taught undergraduate students so that nobody would yeah, and you want me to teach you and examine you the way you want. This is unfair. Don't you see?
This is democracy. This is democracy.
This is what?
This is what democracy is about.
No, talk about education, not democracy. I can teach you democracy, although I'm not a political science. I mean, but this is not a course in political science. And first, we are all talking about education, not democracy. Yes, anybody wants to say something here?
I think after most of the people are not trying to start.
No, let's not do that. Let's not make it hard on ourselves and use. But anyway, there will be. Oh, here is my. It looks like I forgot in last time here or something. Anyway, so we have a total of 100. We have a introductory paper, and we have paper. Okay, and we have midterm, and we have final. Okay, so if we put 30 here, until the maximum, if we put 20 here, and if you put
Back to attendance also. We've missed attendance.
Okay, suppose we have 15 here. And,
attendance, doctor, nothing?
Doctor, attendance. Attendance as well.
Just a moment. Okay. But this is attendance, yes, this is 5. Attendance. Attendance and participation is 5.
It's always 10, doctor.
Okay.
You said 15?
10.
So you said 10 before.
30.
We can go ahead.
What they're doing is a live example of the struggling and regularity. I see that you are presenting at bank
Yeah, this is supervisory. So the 20 and 50, 70 and 30, that's this round. Okay? So this is how the grade will be decided.
5 small exams,
Huh?
but you wouldn't drop one of them.
Huh?
5 small exams.
5 small
But you
exams.
said
Right.
you will
Yeah?
excuse on one of them. The
Yes,
rest-
yes, but I will divide 25 by, I have a computer. It's not a big deal. We will actually, it's very simple arithmetical. You strike you want to get a grade of 25. Every exam is graded out of 5, okay? So you strike out one of them, and you divide the 20 by 4, I mean the total of 4 exams by 4 and multiply them by 5. It's very simple. Okay. Any questions? Can we pre-Maghrib and then come back to start our lecture? Getting too much. بسم الله.
لأن أنا سكرت.
ما هي شغله.
الحساسيات بحس ان الكندراوسي ما ادري حفكر لانه ما في دراسه حتى ما في دراسه ودنا بحث
الحمد لله والصلاه والسلام على رسول الله.
هذه قاعد افكر انه في دكتور طالب لنا بحث زياده. هو البحث اللي قاعد just 20 pages. ما ادري بدأت الماكسيمم كله. ما في امتحانات ما في دراسات.
You remember one of our brothers here mentioned the side of stakeholders, okay? And one of them is investment account holders. And as you remember, investment accounts are all based on mudaraba. And mudaraba means that you share in profit and loss, but you do not share in management. And I think, as you know, finance carries important risks, usually. Conventional finance in particular suffers from the question of asymmetric information, that the borrower and the lender are not equally informed. Which is more informed, the borrower or the lender?
The borrower.
The borrower. Because he is the one who knows the
what
money.
is business, yeah.
So this information asymmetry leads to adverse selection and moral hazard. Both risks associated with information asymmetry. So those customers or investment account holders, depositors, will face these risks. So the regulator has an interest in giving them something that reduces the information asymmetry and consequently reduces risk. And let's look into this.
Doctor, discussion. Doctor, you said now that the investment account holder, as in Islamic Bank? You mean
Yeah,
Islamic
in
Bank?
Islamic Bank.
Yeah, he has more or less information asymmetry, like I mean less information, unlike the conventional bank. That's what you're saying, doctor?
Yeah, information. I mean, Islamic banking has 12 contracts. I always say 12 contracts. It's not like conventional banking and finance is based on one contract, which is called the classical loan contract. Okay. Now, those 12 actually they are not 12, they're 15, because you see, musharaka and mudaraba. Musharaka can be either musharaka in profit or musharaka in production, in output. And musharaka in output, we have, this is applied basically in agriculture, when we share the product, not the profit. We have the crop, either the wheat crop or the fruit crop, and we divide it. And everybody sells his share, or her share. So we have muzara'a, mugharasa, and musaqa. So these are the 3 extra that would make the 12, 15. Most of them are not subject to information asymmetry. Why? Because in most of these contracts, both we don't have borrower and lender here. We don't deal in borrowing and lending. But both the fund user and the fund provider are equally informed, except in cases of mudaraba and wakala. In mudaraba and wakala, there isn't information asymmetry. We have to do something about that. So we want to discuss, do we or should we give governance rights to account holders? What do you mean by governance rights? That the governance of the Islamic financial institution should be changed, should be modified or structured in a way to allow those account holders more information, provide them more information, so that they can be equated or be placed on equal footing as the bank. So investment accounts provide source of capital to finance investment, okay? Sharing risks with the IFI. So actually, they are very useful. We want to encourage those people to give Islamic financial institutions their money.
Doctor, I'm very sorry to interrupt, but Doctor, the risk features on Islamic financial institutions, we have not discussed it, the liquidity risk, the counterparty risk.
No, you have not what?
We have not discussed this with the risk features of Islamic financial institutions, the risk categories.
We did not take this?
No.
I asked you which slide you told me 91.
91, said.
Oh, it's 90. Yeah? This is what slide that you have.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Doctor. I thought we skipped that part. I'm very sorry, Doctor.
Okay. Well, we think about living penalty.
No, I'm very sorry, Doctor. I thought we skipped it and then...
Okay. So, those funds are very useful because your source of capital to finance investments. They are like capital. Those people are like shareholders. They carry the same risks which shareholders carry exactly, but they do not participate in management. So without governance or monitoring rights, regulators and Sharia boards, so they have no governance or monitoring rights. You put your deposit there, and we are not required to give you any information whatsoever. Of course, it's up to you to come to check in our website and look at our annual reports and financial statements. If you can, if they are made available, okay? And if you can read them, and if you have enough skill in reading those financial statements. So regulators and Sharia rules need to address this issue of protection of the rights of investment account holders. So we want to give them protection, and we want to also encourage them to give them the money. So remember, this is a very important point that we want to consider when we design laws and regulations. The risk features. This is the slide that you have? Okay. So now the 5 broad risk categories. That's transaction, business, treasury, and systemic. There is transaction risk, business risk, treasury risk, governance risks, and systemic risks. Okay? And but there are 5 specific risk categories. Okay. Now, first of all, why do we call this broad? Because they apply to all the finance sector. All the finance sector. Anybody that's working in finance, you make a transaction, you're subject to risk. If you're in business, you're subject to the risk. Of course, you cannot. These are the risks that you cannot avoid. You have treasury risk, you have governance risk, and you have systemic risk. Okay. Now, the specific risk categories: first, what we call displacement; second, quality of management; third, harmonization of the institutional environment; and fifth is liquidity management, fourth. And then fifth would be counterparty risk. I will leave these 5 broad risk categories to you to learn yourselves from the references. Okay? And I will explain only the specific risks. Okay? Because they are more difficult. The broad risk categories are much easier, much more logical, straightforward. But these are the specific risks require some explanation.
Okay, Doctor, here you mean specific risk to Islamic banks, Islamic financial institutions?
Yes, we're talking. We have left the introduction now. We're now immersed up to our heads into Islamic finance.
Because, Doctor, when we say liquidity management and equality of management, these are not specific risks to Islamic financial institutions. I mean, they are.
Yes, because you see, I'm talking about Islamic finance. So, liquidity,
quality of management, liquidity.
First of all, displacement is.
Yeah, displacement
is specific. Very specific.
Very specific. Yeah.
Quality of management, of course, it is general, but for Islamic finance, it's of particular importance. So, harmonization of the institutional environment, it is also, this is something that very special to Islamic finance. Because you see, harmonization is more or less automatic in conventional finance. Liquidity management, yes, in conventional finance it exists as a risk, but in conventional finance there are more tools to handle it. Or at least we know more about handling liquidity management in conventional finance than what we do in Islamic finance.
I'm sorry. Some of this specific risk can be linked into the 5 broad risk categories. Yes. Like, for example, quality of management can be linked to governance.
Yes.
Also, the quality of management can be linked to treasury. So I cannot see the difference.
Yes, because you see economists usually have a problem, which is what? The number of variables. Okay? When you talk about transaction risk, this is such a broad thing. It has so many things in it. Now, for Islamic finance, I'm not really interested in a lot of things in this. I'm interested in certain particular elements. Also business, treasury, governance, and so on. So I want to take, so each one of these 5 broad risks include many variables, including the specific variable. So usually, because you see, you're handling social science, which means that you're considering the decision of human beings and trying to understand how these decisions are made and reach certain general principles about them, generalized things about them. So, because the phenomena still is complicated, the behavior the study of the behavior of human beings is much more complicated than the study of the behavior of bodies in a vacuum, like what they do in physics. Okay? This is why in physics I can design a rocket that is launched from a particular place at a certain speed and a certain direction, and I know it will exactly hit a certain target, specified by very fine measurement. Okay? But in economics, I cannot design an incentive to make a human being behave exactly in such an exact way that I can predict it. So that's the problem. So how do I handle that in economics? I try to limit the number of variables and take them one by one. Okay? Is that understood?
Yeah. Excuse me.
Huh?
Excuse
okay.
me.
Yes, ma'am.
Ownership risk. Will that be included? Ownership risk? Ownership risk.
Ownership risk. Yes. Let's see now. What do you mean by ownership risk?
In banks.
Why don't we take it one by one, and if you cannot find ownership risk or property risk, come back to it. Okay? Because the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So liquidity risk. And so IFI's liquidity surplus need to be. Did we explain displacement risk before?
Yeah.
We did?
Yeah, we did.
Maybe, I was just wondering why I started with liquidity risk. We did? Do you remember?
No, we did.
Of course, if we haven't, we will. If we haven't, we will do it.
From another course.
Okay. So, liquidity surplus needs to be invested.
shortage in liquidity needs to be found. Shortage in liquidity needs to be found.
Yes. So, most probably because you're a financing institution, you will most probably you will suffer from not plenty, but from scarcity, from shortage, and not from excess supply. Of course, this is not necessarily true. There was a time when Islamic banks was always, Islamic banks were described as having excess liquidity. They have short-term liquidity, which they don't know what to they don't have outlets, short-term investment outlets. But I think the problem of short-term investment outlets now has been solved So we we're talking about shortages now. Now, absence of an active interbank Sharia compliant money market strict restrict IFSS option to manage the risk. So let's look at this. If you have, how do you manage liquidity? You manage liquidity by, if you need some liquidity, you go to the interbank market and get some, okay? Get some more finance. If you have excess liquidity, you go to the interbank market and place these funds, these excess funds with it. If you don't have instruments, because the interbank market is nothing but financial instruments. Now, let me just go a little deeper with you and give you one of my ideas that I wrote about in 1981. Those who took Islamic economics or who take Islamic economics with me, they will find in this in one of my articles that the Mudaraba itself can be securitized. So you have an investment certificate called Mudaraba certificate. Each bank can issue its certificate, just like a CD, like a certificate of deposit. And these certificates of deposits can be traded. Okay? And when they are traded, they can have a different price every moment of time, depending on the profit expectations. So if I am suppose we banks in Qatar, Islamic banks in Qatar, issue these certificates of deposits, which we call it Mudaraba certificates or Shahadat al-Mudaraba or Sukuk al-Mudaraba or Sukuk al-Qirat. Qirat means Mudaraba also. Okay? The same meaning. Two different words for the same meaning. So, and suppose if a bank issues these certificates for maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, or even 3 months only, it doesn't matter. And so these certificates, can they be traded? From a Sharia point of view, can we allow people to trade them? What do they give the right in? Because trading something depends on its nature.
Maybe it will be like a share in the Mudaraba.
In the
Mudaraba, yeah. In the business. In the business.
In the business, what is it? I mean,
like a capital. You have a capital.
Yes.
A capital, share capital in this, in the investment.
When the bank gets this Mudaraba funds, what does it do with it?
The investment.
And investment, what does the result?
Profit.
What does the result from investment? What do we get? We make something.
Yeah.
What is it?
Assets.
So investment produces assets. And those assets are in the asset pool. They are in one pool, which is owned by the people who have supplied the funds, including shareholders. And we call this the Mudaraba pool. So if you hold a Mudaraba certificate, it means that you're holding a share in the assets of the Mudaraba pool. And these assets are a mixture of real assets, usufruct, services, and receivables, and maybe cash. Okay?
Actually, Professor, what is the difference between this and the investment? What's the difference between Mudaraba certificates and investment account? I think it is the same.
But this is interbank.
Just like what's the difference between a deposit and the certificate of deposit? The same, except for what?
Yeah, trading.
That deposit is money, is cash being used, in the process of being used by the bank.
By the bank. This is
Okay?
interbank relation.
But a certificate means a piece of paper, a financial instrument, okay, that can be traded. Just like the difference between gold deposited in a bank and gold certificate. You see what I mean? Of course you can trade either one, but trading this certificate would be much easier. And in case of owning the share in the Mudaraba pool, will be very difficult to say because it's a common and divided share. While Mudaraba certificate is saleable, it's tradable easily because it's just a piece of paper. Okay? And it gives you the right, it gives you of course title to the common share in the assets and gives you also title or the right to get profit, to earn profit. So if the certificate is issued on January 1st for 3 months, and at the end of the 3rd month we will distribute profit, as usually Islamic banks do distribute profits quarter. Okay? So, and suppose this certificate is issued for 100 Qatari riyals. Would the following day the price would be the same?
No, it's different because the assets, I mean, the asset prices changes.
Huh?
The asset price changes, but the
So
price of the
the
underlying
prices of assets might change. Even if the asset price doesn't change,
The profit expectation.
the profit, huh?
The profit expectation.
The profit will be changing. If you hold the security for 1 day, it means that you have earned the profit for 1 day, and there are still 89 days remaining, okay, of profit. So the certificate's price would change on a daily basis, and you can, if you have extra liquidity, you buy those certificates. So if you're a bank that has a liquidity shortage, needs security, needs liquidity, issue securities and get liquidity. If you have extra liquidity, you buy those securities, and you will get profit. You will get profit. Okay? So that's the idea of an interbank market for Islamic finance.
And the conventional bank is different in this regard.
And this was right.
If it's vice versa, if it's vice versa, and the surplus is there, and the government is established a company, like investment company, to collect liquidity. Is it the same as the certificate?
Yes, the same. If the company, of course, if the government or this company wishes to collect funds on the basis of Mudaraba, it would be the same. But if it's on the basis of a loan or something like that, or shareholding, it would be something else. Okay? Because you see, the company could sell investment certificates, but it can sell also stock. Okay, so depending on or issue a bond for convention. Further,
an interbanking, and this is from the Sharia perspective, using Mudaraba as a mean of mobilizing the surplus fund from the fund from the surplus bank to the deficit bank. But I think the convention it's had a different way. I think by interlocking, I suppose.
Yeah, no, lending, but we don't want to do that. Of course, in interbank, conventional interbank market, funds, there are certificates of deposits. These deposits are time deposits, and they earn per day.
It's like treasury bill.
It's like treasury bills, yes, exactly. But there will be certificates of deposits with banks. Okay? Yes.
Here can a bank buy its own certificate of deposits? You mentioned that the bank can buy its own certificate of Mudaraba, for example?
If they are with others, yes, it can buy it if they wish it. But this has يعني this has some accounting.
Yes, so I'm talking about from accounting point of view. How
It's not selling them. In this case, you are retiring them. I mean, in this case, you are not buying them. It's called you are retiring these certificates.
No, just take it easy. It is just like retiring, but it is يعني it is just like what? When the bank issues مضاربة certificate, it means that it has collected money and it bought assets, invested, in other words, buying assets in the mudaraba. When they buy those certificates, it means that shareholders have replaced the mudaribs, the outside mudaribs.
by themselves. So they replace the mudarabah by themselves.
Yeah, it's like, just like they have bought assets from the mudaraba pool and from depositors, so the title of some of these assets have been transferred to shareholders.
This means that the capital reserve will fluctuate in this case. Or
No, capital is not fluctuating. It's just capital was released from somewhere and
it's not capital.
Yeah, the concept of variable capital can be entertained, but we're not talking about that.
Okay.
Of course, we don't want to complicate things too much. Okay? So the current use of international murabaha and short-term trade financing enabled IFIs to invest their short-term surplus cash. So this is what you find in the literature. Nobody talks about the small and humble idea of معبد الجارحى, but they talk about financing trade. Why? Because trade finance is short-term. So we will issue now a murabaha certificate. Okay? So somebody wants to import goods from outside. So we issue an LC, murabaha LC for him, and we will pay the exporter. And then when the goods come, he will sell those goods within 3 months, and he will pay us. Okay? If we have a murabaha certificate, what do you call? And let's think about it under different moments. In the very beginning, before we buy the goods, and then after we bought the goods, and then after we sold the goods, and what do we own? So before we own the goods, what does the murabaha certificate own? I mean the holder of the murabaha certificate. What does he or she own? Cash. Can you trade it?
No.
No is the correct answer, but more correct would be yes, but only at
face value.
At face value. Only at face value. You sell 100 Qatar riyals for 100 Qatar riyals. Okay? Okay? Now, you buy the goods. Once you buy the goods, what does the holder of the murabaha certificate own?
A share.
Goods, share in the goods. Can you sell it?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Now, once you sell the goods and deliver them to the importer, what do you own?
The proceeds, the sale proceeds.
No, because it will be receivables.
Receivables. It will be debt. It will be debt. Can you trade it?
Yes, in phase one.
No.
Yes, in phase one.
انت باين عليك بتدرب على الشريعه في السعوديه. can you sell debt according to Sharia? Who is Sharia in Sharia?
If it is minority,
That cannot be traded.
Yeah, forget about minority. Deceive each other. Can we sell debt?
No.
Well, no is not a, yeah, it's a good answer, but it's a correct answer, but it is not good enough.
At face
You can sell it only at face value. At face value. Okay? So who would sell debt? At face value? Nobody would buy it. Okay, so that's that. So here, Murabaha certificates will have a very limited use because it, as an interbank tool will not be very useful. Why? Because it cannot be traded except when the goods are bought and before they are sold to the buyer, to the ultimate buyer, which is a very short time. You import things from Japan, so until the moment you receive the documents, which will be a few days, and hand the documents to the importer, then you don't own the goods. The goods are now owned by the importer, so the title has been transferred. You cannot take those certificates. How do you overcome this? Suppose you really want to do murabaha and not mudaraba. How do you overcome this obstacle in Sharia?
Not to transfer maybe not to transfer the ownership to the importer until they pay back, maybe?
You cannot do that. You cannot do that because the sale contract must be executed right away. Yes.
I think in Salam.
No, I'm talking about murabaha. If you tell me something else, then well, this is not an answer.
You know,
we want to train you to structure for it. Yes.
I think if we try to extend the period of the ownership, it may be helpful.
Expand the theory of ownership.
Yeah, the period.
The period.
Yeah.
We cannot expand. You see, trade has, or commerce has its own traditions and conventions. You cannot change it.
I got stuck.
Securitize them, Dr. Securitize them along with some other assets the bank may have. So we apply.
So it is just like using something else.
Reverse
No. Okay, suppose now, and you see, you always want to say,
I was just saying overnight transactions, just use them for overnight. To use them for overnight transactions only?
But you see, this is just one night for the 3 months. It's not practical. So let me give you the solution. It has a very little flavor of what Sister Samira has mentioned. Suppose we make a trading company. She's happy, she's smiling now. But I said it's very small flavor. It's not flavor. So don't be overly joyous. Suppose we make a trading company. The bank makes a subsidiary, which we will call the trading company, QIB trading company, QIBTC. And this company buys goods from abroad and sells them on murabaha basis to local importers. And the bank gives it financing on mudaraba. Okay? Now, or musharaka, doesn't matter.
What, Doctor, the last point?
The
last point, Doctor, can you say it again?
Yeah, we have a trading company that's established as a subsidiary of the bank, and the bank gives the company mudaraba funds, funds on mudaraba in order to finance its operations. Okay? and this company distributes profits during every quarter. Okay? Now, if this company issues certificates,
SPV?
no, Murabaha certificates. Murabaha certificates. What do the holders of these certificates own?
First of all, the shares and the assets, then the receivables. First the share and the assets, and the receivables.
They would own the assets of the company. The trading company, which can be either goods being imported, goods on the on ship or on board ships, and also goods in storerooms, and cash and receivables.
Yeah,
all of
it's a
this
combination.
And this combination changes every moment. So can you trade this?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So
In terms of the goods are the majority.
yes, if it is.
But look at this book example.
Yeah, but okay, so you can comfortably, because you will assume that the percentage of that the capital in this company or cash is being recycled and goods are being bought and delivered and receivables are created and so on. So there is a good percentage of goods, or real goods in the company. So we have solved the Sharia problem and we created some Murabaha certificates. We don't like that.
No, I'm just asking, isn't this the same as the SPV concept? Special purpose vehicle? No.
SPV is not
I mean, the concept of creating a company.
No, it's subsidiary. Yeah, the SPV is something. We might come to it, but of course this is not financial engineering. So we talk about this in the financial engineering. And why should you bother with financial engineering?
No, I'm just. It seems similar to an SPV. That's why.
It's because the SPV is not necessarily a subsidiary of the bank. As a matter of fact, in certain particular cases, it should not be.
It should not be. Yeah, it should not be.
Okay. So, but okay.
This subsidiary company is separate capital
Yes, separate capital
and separate management.
And what the bank does, it gives it that it sends Murabaha certificates to the bank, and the bank gives it. So the bank, of course, can sell those Murabaha certificates to the interbank market, and this Murabaha certificate can be used as an interbank security, interbank financial instrument.
And can this subsidiary can bring different goods as customer requirements?
But from accounting point of view, if we make consolidation, this subsidiary will be part of the bank. So it seems like the bank itself doing this.
It will be from the Sharia point of view. Okay. The bank owns the company. The bank and the company are just one entity, effectively. These Murabaha certificates are actually as if they are issued by the bank, not by the company. Or the bank can issue when the company needs money, the bank can issue certificates, Murabaha certificates, in its own name, that you are mudarib not with the company but with the bank. Okay, but it would be restricted mudarib. You see, just in order to show you how ingenious Islamic finance is, let's look at the very quickly move to Egypt and look at the problem of Egypt. We have a dollar shortage. We have the local currency is declining in price. People hold on to the dollars. They buy dollars and keep them. They use them as store of value because they know that if they keep the pound as a store of value, it will decline in value. And but importers cannot find the dollars. And that's why there is an existing demand for dollars. The dollar is rising. How do we solve this in Islamic finance? This Murabaha certificates for trade finance would be a very good idea. That you have a trading company that issues Murabaha certificates or sukuk in dollars. And it will not pay 2 or 3% like what Egyptian banks pay on the dollar deposits. It will pay very good rate of return because trade makes profit. Okay? So how about this idea, Mr. President Morsi, or when I went to give him the copy of the Constitution, and we had so he had a picture with each one of us. And when I shook hands with him, I told him, Mr. President, we want Islamic finance. It will solve your problems. It will solve them. But till now, we are still waiting. So there is no efficient mechanism for funding shortage of cash in case of need. Not because the mechanism doesn't exist, but it does not. We haven't implemented it. There are many ideas. Innovation is just is limitless in Islamic finance. You mention need and we will require it and we'll give you the way to it. So these factors have limited IFI's ability to invest the capital long term, generally less liquid but more profitable assets in order to honor withdrawal request from depositors. So here we have we have the problem of also, see, this is the other problem. We looked at the problem of short-term requirements, and we found that Mudalaba certificates, Murabaha certificates can be used. But how about long-term? Of course, long-term assets is less liquid, and the bank might have commitments for short-term. So this would be a problem. Before we come to this, just a couple of minutes to discuss how to solve these problems. You see, for those of you, people who are kindly writing the lecture notes, remember, I am giving you a headline, but I'm doing a lot of talk. So, don't. I need to see what I say being written.
Doctor, if I can get from you these lecture notes in Word format, it will be very easy for me.
Okay, I will give it to you. No problem, no problem. This is actually, it's very easy to get them to transfer PowerPoint to Word. Yeah. Okay, but you need to know something about Office and things like that. Not everybody knows about it. But usually the way I learn about Office, about how to use these things, is you just go to Google and say, how do you transform PowerPoint files to Word? They will find 100 ways of doing it. See what I mean? So this is how I learn. This is my trick of learning things. So when I find when I hear a difficult word, the word that I haven't seen before, I want to know what it means, Arabic or English. I go to Google, although Google in Arabic is not as good, so I have my own معجم الوسيط. المعجم الوسيط is issued by مجمع اللغة العربية في القاهرة. So I go and find the meaning right away. So here we go. How do we solve this? We have assets. We want to make profit. But if we put our money in assets, the long-term assets, we have to, usually profitable assets are long-term. What do we do in order to solve this problem? So that in order to be able, first to be able to have our cake and eat it too. Usually, if you eat your cake, you don't have it. Usually my eldest son, when he was young, he would come to me very happy and say, I have it. I have a riddle. He just heard this riddle Fazura in the school from one of his classmates. So I told him, don't tell it to anybody. Well, he was anxious to tell it to, don't tell it to anybody. Because if you don't tell it, then it's not, you don't have it anymore. You don't know. So the poor boy starts wondering. And he said, no, I want to. So here is the riddle that we're talking about. How do you handle that? Anybody has an idea? We have only a couple of minutes. Do you have any idea?
Securitization.
Okay, let's start with
well, let's start. Let's try to gather the components. Have long-term assets.
We want to make profit. So we want to put our money in long-term assets because they're more profit.
But
yet we have commitments that can be short-term. So what do we do? What can the bank do?
Securitization.
Sheikh or Samira, who raised his hand there? You did raise your hand? You changed your mind?
Yeah, I said.
Okay, no, it's okay. So the answer, listen, the answer is the same as before. What did we do before? We securitized the pools, the Mudaraba pool. We issued Mudaraba certificates, which gives you titles or ownership, common shares, undivided shares in the pools, in the assets of the Mudaraba pool. Okay? Now the same thing we will invest in long-term assets, profitable, but in order to make them tradable easily, more liquid, to transfer them to financial assets, to securitize them. Okay? Is that clear?
Yeah.
Acceptable? See? This idea was much easier than Mudaraba and Muraba.
We securitize them in any kind of certificate. We securitize
it can be called Mudaraba certificate. Very simply. Part of the Mudaraba pool assets can be securitized. Okay? All right. If you haven't heard your name, give it to me so that I can record it.